Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Tonight, Tuesday Live will focus on the outcome of the party primaries. Well, in the past few weeks, political parties worked around the clock to meet INEC's deadline of May 29th, 2022 for the conduct and process submission of names of standard bearers. That was before the extension by the Independent National Electoral Commission, and this offered additional time for the parties to prepare and conduct seamless primary elections. And over the weekend and at the beginning of the week, some political parties like the People's Democratic Party, African Democratic Party, and the New Nigeria People's Party conducted primaries which saw the emergence of party candidates. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will examine how the process went and what lies ahead. But first, let's get to see this report by political correspondent Adiola Komiakeri.
The history of political activities, whether primaries or the general election, is usually fraught with violence and internal crisis within the party, which sometimes ends up in the cancellation or postponement of the exercise. This has not been the case with the already concluded primaries in Lagos State ahead of the 2023 general elections. The ambience that greeted the announcement of results at some locations was that of cordiality. Although there were reports that some aspirants were not in agreement with final results, the general process was not violent as anticipated, unlike the premise that political losers are mostly dissatisfied with the status quo and end up fighting to overturn any results not in their favor. Hakeem Akpatira of the APC, who lost in the Lagos West Senatorial District primary election, feels otherwise, as he adjudged the process free, fair and transparent. He says despite losing, he remains with the party and will continue to render his unflinching support.
From the governorship primary to the last one we did yesterday, which was one that I participated in the senatorial, there was no issue of miscreant hijacking things. It was civil enough and it was done in broad daylight. Everybody was there to see. So it was good. So there's no way they will write a negative report about it.
On the part of the PDP, new entrant into the party, Olajiri Adediran, emerged as the gubernatorial candidate.
We have decided that we must come together and speak in one voice.
There is relative peace. Let me say there is peace. Everybody is orderly. Maybe some have even made up their mind who to vote for, and they are in the majority. So this atmosphere is relaxed.
Accord Party's primaries for the various positions was carried out by nomination, and those perceived to be credible individuals with impeccable records were selected. It was also said to be free and fair, as delegates consented to all the nominations.
There are a lot of people that apply for all kinds of different posts, whether assembly, House of Rep, governorship, that kind of stuff. They start with them constantly and advise them as to what you might be good for. than just being there. And they were able to advise them peacefully. And they were able to say, okay, yes, I think I'm good in this, I'm good in that. And people were able to change from here to here. But nobody was turned down. Everybody was properly accommodated. That was the best thing that can happen in any political party.
The conduct of primary elections by the registered political parties in Lagos State, according to observers, has to a large extent been adjudged violence-free, even though tension was high. In Lagos, Adeola Komiakiri.
All right. That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guest to you. Would like to welcome to this program Honorable Ogene Ima Ego. He is a PDP member of the House of Representatives, Lagos State. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
I'm happy to be here once more.
Right. Let me also welcome to this program Yabagi Yusuf Sani. He's chairman Interparty Advisory Council and chairman Action Democratic Party, also a presidential candidate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Let me welcome to this program here with us Senator Ahmed Sani Yarima, serving senator, former governor of Zamfara State, and a presidential aspirant on the platform of the APC. Thanks for being here, Senator.
Thank you very much.
All right. Also with us tonight is Nick Dazang, the former Director of Voter Education of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Nick Dazang, good to see you.
Very much.
Right, and also joining us tonight, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, Director, Center for Democracy and Development. Prof, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
And joining us from our Enugu Network Center is Jehu Onyekwere Nnaji. He is a professor of international law and global politics. Welcome to NTA Tuesday Live.
Thank you, Cyril. It's my pleasure being with you tonight.
All right. Okay, now we know our guests. We'll go into the program. Just a quick reminder that at some point in time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. We'll acquaint you with the procedure when that time comes. But for now, we're looking forward to a robust discussion tonight. Let's start on the premise of the just concluded primaries. Now, for those parties that have done some bit of it and some up to the presidential, while we still await one. But let's kick off and ask, how did it go? Let's start with you, Honorable Agene Imayego. You're of the PDP.
Yes, of course.
And you held your primaries, and well, you scaled through.
Yes.
Tell us how that process
the PDP had a very robust primary and very democratic primaries. Every candidate was allowed to campaign. All those who bought forms were allowed to campaign, and voting was done everywhere. We didn't go the consensus way, as APC is trying to do in their presidential system. For we in the PDP, that system seems to be undemocratic. That's what we think. And we think that it's not fair for the candidates. So the PDP decided to have a free and fair primaries level playing ground. And it played out in the House of Assembly, in the House of Rep, Senate, governorship. All our candidates are basically known already. And then, of course, we just concluded our presidential primaries, where, as you saw, voting was done and the votes were counted, and the winner emerged.
All right. We'll return to you in the course of this discussion. There are other matters arising. You've just said that everything played out democratically. Well, we'll return to that and seek answers to certain reports that we have and wonder how those primaries were entirely democratic. But let's go over to Alhaji Yabagi Sani and put the same question to him. Your primaries held, and candidates have now emerged. Give us an insight into how it went.
Still, it went very well because, we always tell people we're the credible alternative, and we have to do it credibly, and we have to do it in a manner that Nigerians will have confidence in what we're bringing out. In our own case, we adopted consensus because it's legally, provided for in the Electoral Law 2022. And we feel that if you can have your primary is supposed to be a family affair, so there shouldn't be an issue of that rigorous, process of bringing somebody out from your family. That's why we demonstrated it. We have shown that it can be done, and we did it. And we had actually 2 elections yesterday. One was to elect our national executive committee, of the party, which were had their tenure renewed, and then also yesterday we had our presidential primary election, at the International Women's Center here in Abuja, where our party members came out, in their numbers, colorfully dressed. I was very happy. It was an engagement that, believe me, I'm sure we yet to see any party that can beat us, because it was rancor-free, a family affair, like I said, and that goes to show that we need to have credible alternative in order to usher in a government Nigerians can believe in.
All right, and you emerged.
And I emerged as presidential candidate of the party.
Okay, thank you. Senator Amadi Arima, well, the APC, the governing party, still has its presidential primaries to hold. Screening of the aspirants started yesterday, went on today, but there were other primary elections that were held, and so we think you can still speak on those and tell us.
Well, see, I want to correct the impression of my brother here, so that the Nigerians should know. That is why ignorance is a major problem, ignorance of law. He, as a member of House of Rep, it is the National Assembly that passed Electoral Act, and they provided for consensus, direct or indirect primaries. And the APC, as a ruling party, believes that we have to go democratic, where consensus is required and assessments is made. APC will do consensus. Where we believe that the voters should be allowed, the general members of the party, we go for direct primaries. Where we believe that we use the delegates, we go for indirect primaries. APC, as a democratic party, adopted the 3. For example, in Benue, for governorship, I understand that the direct primaries was employed. So in short, all the primaries conducted by APC were so credible and so accepted by the members of the party that you have not had anybody saying he's either shortchanged or something happened wrong. So the party has conducted credible primaries, and I'm sure the preparations for the presidential primaries is on. The screening is going on, maybe has been concluded by now, and the convention is coming up 6 to 8 of this month.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll return to some of the issues. Let's now go to watchers of this situation who didn't take part in the primaries, but know a thing or two about how these things are conducted. Nick Dazang, let's hear your opinion. You were at some point in time Director of Voter Education and Publicity at INEC. And so, expectedly, what played out over the last few weeks would have been of interest to you and what is to come. So give us your impression of what you've seen so far.
I think the primaries season was very interesting, particularly to stakeholders like my humble self, who looked out for stakeholders to carry themselves in accordance with the law, the Constitution, and the Electoral Act, and for the Commission, which remit it is to monitor the conduct of these primaries. And I wish to observe that the Commission did the needful by engaging with stakeholders ahead of the primaries. They engaged with the political parties, who are the preeminent stakeholder in the process, with civil society, with the media, and so on, with a view to, setting the tone for the conduct of the primaries. and the commission also unfolded a comprehensive checklist, which also agrees with the checklist that the political parties are using. And what the commission is trying to achieve is to make sure that the parties carry themselves in concert with these checklists and the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. Be that as it may, let me also say that comparatively, I think the conduct of the primaries this time are far better than what we saw in the past. But the use of money, which one of the aspirants, noted was obscene, obscene monetization of the process in one or two of the political parties is concerning. And I think the tone for this obscene monetization had been set earlier on by the humongous amount that aspirants paid to collect forms to express interest in the conduct of these primaries in the first place. So it wasn't surprising that some of the political parties continued in that trajectory, but I think it is an unfortunate development because it tends to construe our own democracy as a plutocracy, government of the rich, by the rich, for the rich, because what it means is that if you're not better healed or you don't have a deep pocket, you are not likely to sail through or emerge victorious in the primaries in some of these political parties. And that also means that the best may not emerge because the richest person might not necessarily be the best candidate that should emerge at the end of the day. So it's very concerning, and we are watching the situation with trepidation, and hope that the political parties, those that have not conducted their primaries, will carry on in a manner as not to give ascendancy or prominence to the use of money as we have seen so far. So far, some of the parties, like the APC, are yet to conduct their primaries, and we are meant to understand that they intend to do it in concert with their virtues and values. But if what we saw much earlier on, when candidates were paying 100 million naira to purchase expression of interest forms, you keep wondering what kind of virtues or values are being espoused. But I think it's premature to say. We will keep watching and see how things pan out. But we have reason to fear. We have reason to fear for the process, and we have concerns with the way things are unfolding.
All right, thank you very much. Let's just go over to Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, and Prof. Well, you've always been with elections, electioneering, observing, commenting on what's been going on, and of course, pushing for development of democracy. So, what do you make of what we saw over the past couple of weeks, really?
The first point I'll make is that I listened very carefully to the three politicians among us this evening, and they were all full of praise for the democratic content of the primaries, for how smoothly it went, and how for each of them their party is the very demonstration of political decency. And I wondered whether we are talking about the same primaries Nigerians are talking about. I don't think there has ever been as much negative commentary on the conduct of primaries as we are currently hearing on what has been going on. Nick has raised the issue of the massive use of financial inducement. But I think over and above the question of financial inducement, a lot of Nigerians are expressing serious concern about who the delegates are, how they are chosen, how they are substituted by political godfathers, how they are locked up so that candidates wouldn't have access to them, and how somebody controls what they do. And most parties are essentially guilty of this. What this is placing on the agenda, therefore, is serious credibility challenge to the way in which these primaries have been conducted. It is well known in this country that since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, we have had serious challenges with internal party democracy. Parties are unwilling to follow their own constitution and the regulations established in the Electoral Act as amended, as well as INEC regulations. Parties tend to have extremely strong godfathers. In some cases, they are governors. In other cases, they are just people who have been able to corner the power of the members of political parties and made it a personalized accumulation of power. And these are the people who take major decisions. For me, it is very difficult to practice democracy outside your party if you do not practice democracy within your party. And the challenge brought up by these recent primaries, some of which are ongoing, is that so many of these parties are simply not taking up the challenge of practicing democracy internally so that they can project that democracy at the state and national levels. My strong wish and desire is that that character of lack of respect for internal party democracy should change and the rules and regulations be followed.
Well, thank you, Prof. And we'll go over to our Enugu Network Center and would also ask the Professor of International Law and Global Politics to avail us of his perspective on what happened at the primaries that were of much interest to Nigerians in their millions.
Let me start by saying that the elections in Enugu State went practically very well. Starting from the period we did the screening, everything was under very serene atmosphere. And you discover that most of the aspirants followed the laid-down procedures. And there was nothing like any fracas that existed between the body that conducted the screening and the aspirants. So it is important for us to know that this is in tandem with the democracy as we have practiced it up to date. And one thing is very important, that the aspirants, of course, I was a governorship aspirant under the platform of PDP. And we discovered that most of the aspirants rallied around a common purpose because, of course, one person will emerge. And one thing I have to give kudos to is the process we have evolved, over time regarding the Electoral Act, which is also in consonance with the Nigerian Constitution. Of course, Section 131, 67, and 42 of the Nigerian Constitution as amended, specifies the requirements for those who will go for office of president, vice president, governor, and deputy governor, as well as the National Assembly. Of course, these things were very much, in a foreplay when this screening exercise was conducted. People were checked against this backdrop and against this background to see that they tallied, with what was the laid-down procedure. And of course, during the time that preceded the election proper, there was what was called the three-man ad hoc delegates. Of course, I must confess and make clear that these processes went in line with what was expected. There wasn't anything like loss of life or kind of skirmishes that marred some of these processes in the past. So these are the delegates. Of course, this is an adoption of indirect primaries, which was microcosmic, regarding those who were going to elect those who will represent them, either the governorship, House of Assembly, National Assembly, and President. These things played out very well in Enugu State, and we noticed that we have to, go back in time and then see that if we had done these things in the past this way, we'll have recorded great success. So I think, generally and in a nutshell, we practiced what we preached, and everything went successfully well. Those who lost saw reasons to rally around the winner, or the standard bearers, as well as the representative of the parties, to show that these are things that we can understand, within ourselves, that it's only one person that will emerge for each office. So that means not everybody will emerge at the same time. So if you are a winner, then you will be magnanimous in victory. And those who didn't make it will also be gallant. So I think that we recorded very great success in Enugu State. And going forward, this is a real indication that we will see what is expected of us in the next elections in 2023.
All right, thank you. Let's get back to Abuja studio here and then begin to examine a number of the things that have been put forward here as how successful these primaries were, particularly from reports that we gathered. Honorable Ogene Maigu. Well, yes, your standard bearers emerged, and you felt that all that happened was in consonance with democratic ideals and principles. So where in all of this is the monetization issue? There are reports of financial inducements. In fact, there were clear cases of where some aspirants lost and demanded a return of all the monies they had given. In some cases, those who didn't vote them in, they were angry and returned their money and said, take it and go. And we're not going to do this. So where is that? How is that democratic and in line with the ethos of what
well, if I tell you that I didn't hear of it, I will be lying. We've seen in social media saying some people give millions of naira and people refuse to vote for them. And so they demanded their money back. In itself, that shows you that democracy is developing. People are giving millions, but people are saying, no, I won't vote for you because you have given me money. In other words, people are voting their conscience. In my opinion, that is a major improvement in the democratic system. One would expect that people will go for the highest bidder. But as it is, that is not what is happening.
Yeah, but in some cases, those who, really made it, they put out the money there and they got what they wanted. And so they didn't scream or, complain.
Well, I know that there are cases